Joining us now is Borough President Eric Adams. He's currently serving his second term as Brooklyn's top executive. Before running for office, he served for 22 years with the NYPD. He is retired from the department as captain. He's a co-founder of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. That Who Cares is so cool there. That advocacy group is known for speaking out against brutality, racial profiling, and for encouraging hiring diversity. There are so many things you could add on to that list.
So true.
Thank you, Borough President, for being here. Let's talk about that initiative and know your rights. One of the most clear things in listening to a couple of your press conferences in the car this morning, talking about what young people of this generation think are their rights when they come up against police officers and behavior versus what is true. You want to do something.
And just think about the life-altering interaction. If it goes wrong, it can lead to arrests where it will damage their career. It can lead to a violent encounter. It can lead to trauma that people don't realize. And so when you think about, we trained 20,000 youth when I was in the police department, and it dawned on me when one of the young ladies said that we don't know what we're supposed to do, that an entire generation, I've been out of policing for about 13 years, we have an entire generation that we never instructed, and we want to correct that wrong.
And the basics, let's even talk about the basics of that, how we greet each other, how we show respect to each other.
So true. You know, I say the biggest mistake we make in communication is that we actually believe it took place. We don't teach communication at all. And so if I don't know when a cop performs a car stop, that is one of the most dangerous jobs he can do. So there's a reason he's standing on the side of the car, that he's asking for your license and registration. What do we do if a police officer knocks on our door, or if he stops us on the street? Not knowing that information can go from a simple encounter to a hostile encounter. That cop could have received a call that a person has a gun. The person he's stopping is not aware of that, so they automatically are going to feel a level of tension because the symbol of authority is coming towards you. We must communicate this information with young people and adults, to be honest.
And you speak from your one-on-one experiences, riding at that time on trains as a transit officer, single officer by yourself.
Yes, different. It was a different time.
Different time, wasn't it? And then through the department and rising to captain. Let's talk about the J Street Metro Tech situation less than a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
The fight, you did react to it. I first want to, we saw some video in the previous story. Let's just show your reaction, which you tweeted to this. Would you like to read your own?
I said there's good policing and bad policing, just as there's good and bad ways for young people to handle interactions with police. The J Street Metro Tech incident shows areas where we need to improve. We all share responsibility as cops and commuters to make our subways safer.
So let's show that video and talk about that.
And it was a very interesting one because when you looked at it, if you looked at it on first brush, you said to yourself the police officers were all going wild. And it wasn't. It was one officer that punched 3 different times. Here, he's using, look at him right here, excessive force. He walked up to this young man that was walking down the platform and punched him in his face. You don't strike civilians who are passively resistant or not resistant at all. You're not trained there. We didn't identify on this scene that officer, he was actually stopped by the supervisor and moved to the side. He should have been removed from the scene. That's proper de-escalation. That's something that we're not teaching now. So not only must we instruct young people, the police department must shift to gear that we can't have another Eric Garner. That young man could have been struck, fall on the tracks, electrocuted. Now you have an entire homicide investigation taking place. And this is where the unions are going wrong. They need to stop believing being supportive of law enforcement is sitting in the courtroom after they're indicted. Being proactive to say, I'm not going to create an atmosphere where you're going to be indictment and your family's going to be traumatized. That is pro-law enforcement, and I'm pro-law enforcement. I know how important law enforcement is in this city. I'm totally opposed to what we saw over the weekend where people were spitting in the face of cops, writing on cars. I know what this city is like without proper protection, but we must do better as law enforcement officers.
Also in that situation, you speak about how at the beginning, morning just talking about what was good. The officers encircled.
Excellent job.
Right? Cordoned off the kids who were fighting.
Right. Because in the subway system, that incident, someone sprayed mace in the subway system. There was a real level of discourse, and the officers did an amazing job of circling the area, isolating the real threat, and each time you saw things erupt, it was because that other officer was going around. When things settled down, he was actually going around and creating more of a ruckus. We could have had a riot. That could have been a very dangerous situation. And that officer, in my opinion, should not be patrolling this city again.
And he has been removed to desk duty.
But what's fascinating was the police commissioner's response. The police commissioner at the time, Jimmy O'Neill, who was an ex-transit cop, he stated that the young people should have known when the police officers told them to do something, they should have done it. Listen, that is not what young people do. Why are we pretending as though that young people are loud, they're boisterous, they have this energy, and we need to understand that when we interact with them, that I'm dealing with someone who science says their minds are not even developed to the level of making these rational decisions. So as adults, we must make the right decisions and approach these issues better.
You mentioned Commissioner O'Neill.
Yes.
The mayor naming Commissioner, Chief of Detectives Dermot Shea as the next police commissioner. There's been a lot of talk about that, including that Benjamin Tucker, a black man, was passed over for fourth time.
Right,
as
third
mayor.
time. Mm-hmm.
Third time. Borough President Adams, what's your reaction, first of all, to Dermot Shea as the commissioner? Is he the right man for the job?
Well, he has the experience, and everyone at the top end of the food chain of the police department, they all came through the same model of CompStat and how we police this city, so they all can fit the job. But the question becomes, when are we going to reach a point, 400 years after slavery that we are acknowledging now, when do we reach the point that the ebony of a black man's skin doesn't get in the way of his Ivy League credentials? We have a black man that's an attorney, that has police, federal experience. He was the #2 in charge under the Commissioner Bratton, #2 under O'Neill. We jump over him. What are we saying? That he's all right to be the understudy, but he can't be the main actor on the stage? And I thought it was the wrong decision. And I believe we are better at it as a city as we talk about diversity. Now, the mayor says we're going to move people up through the rank and file of different ethnicities. That's not the same. Largest police department in the country, to have a person of color. We have not had a person of color at the helm of the New York City Police Department way back since we had Commissioner Brown. That's just the wrong message to send. It was an opportunity to promote a woman to the spot.
Sure enough. Do you think it is because of his race?
I don't know what it is, and I can't figure it out. Why do we believe that we could only run on the field, put the ball in the hoop, always play second fiddle? We can't coach the team. We can't own the team. When are we going to turn around and say, let's go with the best quality? If you're telling me that a person with his credentials, an attorney, former law enforcement officer, played the #2 role all of these years, if we're saying he's not qualified, then my question is, who is?
Interesting. I was watching CompStat today, and as the commissioner-elect Shea and Commissioner O'Neill, they were mentioning everybody was there. I saw Pollock there and Monahan, but I didn't see Benjamin Tucker there.
It's a good question, and when you look at what was happening with Chief Banks, you know, he left the department. Chief Banks was concerned about his shifting of role. I understand policing. People need to be clear about this. I know the science of the power of policing in this city. When you are the police commissioner of the city of New York, you set policies. You are the mayor of the local precincts as commanders, and that is a lot of power. And the mere fact that we are reluctant to put that power in a person of color hand or in another gender's hand, that's a statement.
You mentioned the word mayor, and you've been not only you're the borough president, elected in 2013 or 14,
yes, 13. I believe. Time moves so quick.
Doesn't it move fast? And Democratic state senator for 4 terms before your police work, which started in the 80s. So What do you think about Eric Adams running for mayor of New York City?
I think it's the right time. I believe that I'm concerned about what I'm seeing in this city. There's a level of dysfunctionality in government, and we're also eroding the basic principles that made us safe in the first place. I don't want Jordan, my son, growing up in the city I grew up in. We forgot what it was like to have no radio signs on our cars. We saw the level of violence, people living like caged animals, afraid to walk the street. I see signs of that again. Homelessness is increasing. I know we're in some very difficult times, but also government needs to be better. I learned from policing. We went from being dysfunctional in our police agencies to functioning. That was a pivotal moment. We should have also made all of our agencies in this city start to function and govern in real time. This city is so much better. We can do a better job as a city, and I believe now more than ever, as a person that has prior law enforcement experience, I've been a former state legislator. I'm now the chief executive of the third largest city in America, a place called Brooklyn. If I'm not qualified to do this job, then what man of color or what man in this city is qualified to do this job?
So sounds like to me, Eric Adams, you're saying you're going to run for mayor of New York City.
There's a process. You have to raise the money. It's an awesome a lot of money to raise. You have to build the necessary support. We've done that, and we're going to move to the final stage to sit down and do a complete analysis. But I'm ready. This is something that I wanted to do for the city of New York from the days when I wore a bulletproof vest to now. And if the pathway is clear, that based on all of our analysis, that Eric, you can make a formidable challenge to be the mayor of the city of New York, I'm ready to go forward with that obligation. This mayor wants a general that's not going to send them in battle, but that's going to lead them in battle and do the real things that make this city function as a first-class city. A 21st century mayor in the year 2021.
From Brownsville to the police precinct to the State House to the borough and maybe City Hall. We'll see. Thank you so much, Borough President.
Really good seeing you.
Eric Adams. Nice to see you too and hear about the things that are important to you in our city.
Thank you.